In this video, I'm going to teach you how to create value with watercolor paints. Basically, the most important thing you need to remember is that the amount of water you use versus the amount of paint you use will change the value. So, on your paper, I want you to draw a little cup of water, and you can write water versus paint. Keep it simple. Equals, and then you're going to do this. You're going to make a rectangle, and then you're going to put two lines inside to divide it. And then you're going to write value really big. Pause the video here and do this. Once you have finished this step, you are going to set yourself up to paint. So you do this in Sharpie, by the way. To paint, I don't need that yet. You need a water cup, paper towels, your paint set, and a watercolor brush. And notice that my paint set is dirty, so I'm going to just teach you really quickly how to clean. If I wanted to use this green, you just get into your water. Your water should be clean when you're doing this if you want to clean your colors. And you just spin around and around. Go back into your water. Spin around and around. And that's how you clean it. So if you have a color at your palette that's dirty, do that. Now we're going to work with a technique called wet and wet. So we want to make this the lightest, this medium, and this dark. So the lightest value gets the most water. So I'm going to take my brush, and with a wet, clean brush, I'm just going to wet that area. And then I'm going to get more water on my brush and just dot in my paint a tiny bit. And I want to just use a little tiny bit of color, and you can see it just spreads it right out, makes it really, really light, and that's that. Now I can go ahead and paint these other sections with the water that's on my brush, and I'm just going to add a little more paint to this one. In layers. It's not showing up on the screen at all, but this is getting a little darker. And then I'm going to wash my brush, dry it off for the last box. I'm going to load up my brush with a lot of paint, and I'm just going to make this my darkest one by having just a little bit of water and a lot of paint. Can add a little layer here. It's not showing on the screen as well as it is in real life, but if this box got too dark when you're working and you realize that got too dark, here's a little secret trick. Clean your brush, dry it off, and with a dry brush you can go over this area, and the brush kind of soaks up the water and the color, so that creates this change in value. So let me try to see if you can see it. Okay, so that's really, really light. On the screen it looks like nothing, but that is a very light green, a medium green, and a darker green. Lots of water, medium amount of water, a little bit of water. Okay? Once you've done that, you should get a piece of tape, a roll of tape, and you're going to create a little square for yourself, or a rectangle, whatever it turns out to be. But I'm going to use this whole page. Tape is a great tool when you're using watercolors. It creates a nice crisp edge. That wasn't straight, so I'm going to go ahead and use the edge of my paper to help me make sure that my border is straight as possible. Using the edge of my paper. Okay. Now I'm going to press it down, make sure it's down well, and then you're going to draw 4 lines. So this is going to become a landscape. So I'm going to draw my first line at the bottom, and it's going to be kind of like, you know, subtly straight, not perfect. Then this line will go next layer. That's my 3rd line, and then here's my 4th line coming in from behind. Okay? So I've created this layered effect to show different layers of land, and I am only using this color to create depth in this picture. So you're going to start off by choosing which layer is going to be first, and I recommend having your background be first. So we're going to wet the sky, and I'm going to stop at that pencil line where the sky is. I'm just going to wet that. Wet my brush. With watercolors, we layer. So I have a lot of paint on my brush right now, and there's a really good chance that I'm going to need to go back in here and layer again. So I am trying to be very careful around my edge here, and I am getting right onto my tape, and I'm smoothing this wash out with my brush to make my, so you don't see my strokes. Okay, now that's going to dry. I'm going to go down here, and I'm going to wet this bottom layer, and I'm going to drop the tiniest bit of color. Like, this is going to be almost white. There's like nothing there. So it's going to gradually change light, medium, medium dark, and dark as we get up here. So I'm going to go ahead. Oops, I have to wet my area first. Let's do this one. Wet on wet is when you wet the area you're painting first. It's a good technique for watercolor paint. It just helps the paint move easily. So I'm still in that same green. Now I'm going to go back in here, load up my brush, layer this on again, get this really dark again. Smooth out any brush lines that I see. Okay, clean my brush. So this layer is going to be super light, so I'm going to make this wet, and then I'm going to drop in just a teeny bit of color. It's got to be slightly darker than this and slightly lighter than that. So let's just get a little bit of green. Paint this in. And if I need to, I can go in and add a little bit more to this, but not too much because I need to make sure that's darker. So this is just how to work. If everything is wet at the same time, all of these layers are going to blend and mix together. So you don't want to do that, but you want to make sure that you are working a little at a time, layering on top to make your darker values if you need it. So this is a wash of water. I'm going to load up my brush with some green. Trying not to have these two layers look the same, but I know that if I have to, I can go in and add a little bit more green to that background when this is dry. So I am trying to smooth out these brush lines that I see. I just dried my brush off because I'm going to try to lift some of this color. Okay, so this is the challenge that I'm giving you today. I want you to do your best. I just noticed that this came into here a little, so I dried my brush off and I'm lifting the color with that dry, clean brush. Okay. So what I'm doing is I'm going to wait for this to dry, and I'm going to go in and add this another layer of green to this background to make this the darkest. And then once this dries, I'm going to add another layer back here. Okay, so this is what I want you to do today. Please work your hardest, do the best you can do, and try to create a landscape that has a change in value from lightest at the bottom all the way up to the darkest. And don't make more lines than 1, 2, 3, 4 lines, because you will have more layers and it becomes more challenging. All right, I think I just did it. Can you see it? So you can't see this on the screen or this one, but they are slightly different. Once this is done, you can carefully peel your tape off, and you will reveal a beautiful, crisp, clean edge to your landscape. I have a little bit of paper peels like that. That's okay. This is only practice. Painter's tape is the best for that. So there you have it.